So this afternoon we're doing some tree planting. This is about 80 yards from the hunting blind, the muddy blind that you've seen before. We're adding just a little bit of depth. We've got the persimmon trees between me and them, and then we have cornfield, food plot type things, but we can see through the persimmons, and as they get taller, the deer will feel protected as they walk behind the tree and then be exposed and behind a tree. Back here, this is all hardwoods. Well, hardwood, softwoods, all deciduous trees, no pine. When the winter comes, it's pretty barren. You can see through to the other side. We call this area of the woods the thumb. It sticks out into the meadow. The other side of this is the chestnut orchard. Then there's this woods. So deer come along the edge in this goldenrod, but as the snowpack comes and beats that down, they feel less secure here. So our goal is to increase their security. And so what we're doing is we're going to add two interesting, at least interesting to me, pine type trees. So we're digging the hole and I'll introduce you to the trees. This is late September. It's a good time to transplant. If you're not going to do it in the spring, it's a great time to do it now in the fall. We've had significant rain recently. So let's go grab the trees. These are dawn redwoods. I've shown you that I have the giant sequoias. That so far we just have one living out of the three. But these, I know for a fact will do well because there's a local park in Erie, the city of Erie, Frontier Park, that has the dawn redwood. Interesting backstory on the dawn redwood. It was thought to be extinct, and then I guess maybe 20-30 years ago in China they discovered a whole grove of them in a mountain, and turns out they're not extinct. So beautiful trees. I bought these as 1-year bare root seedlings from Ridge Nursery. I was supposed to plant them last year. I didn't. I've found that some of my pines do better, especially if I put them in a pot and grow them 1 year at home so I can kind of nurture them. But anyway, 1 year turned into 2. So these are 2-year seedlings. So we're going to get these in the ground. Pines don't do well in tree tubes. They need to be able to branch out, so I'm going to be putting these in a cage, but not too root bound because it grew. I had them planted in my garden till winter over, so they had soil to grow into. So a decent little root ball. We got a wild golden retriever coming out of the woods, so I'm just popping this loose. I'm going to make this little tab loose so it can grow, but I don't know what it is. Beautiful little tree. And I'm going to say, I don't know, I'm 6 foot tall, belly button, so I'm going to say 3 foot tall, a little over. As I said, we had a recent pretty significant rain event for 3 or 4 days. Just beautiful, steady rain. I'm not sure, it looked like a little bit of a circular system, but it was coming from the west up in Canada. And so I would think hurricane related, but it's before Hurricane Ian, which when this is released, Hurricane Ian's going to be the only thing you're hearing about because of it's making its fall into Florida. So it was not related to Ian, but I don't know if it was related to another tropical storm that turned around, came back down, but it was a perfect rain, steady rain without flooding, and it didn't tear up anything as far as soil. So we got this little tree nestled into its new little home. This will turn into a beautiful tree that should tolerate the climate here, no problem, and should live many generations past me, long after these woods know who I am, which doesn't make me sad. I always stake on the western side because that's the dominant wind. The wet soil makes it much easier to drive the stake, and I like it to be about a foot in the ground. And here's my cage. And we just bend a couple so that it fits better. I don't really stake them down, I just push them in. Push some of the wire in, some out, get it hooked on, ride it down the stake. That way you don't have to deal with a plastic tie aging out on you. Just make a little dimple, pop it out, make a dimple, kind of creates its own little holder. And that will protect this, hopefully, from deer. Deer, I found the thing that stopped the deer from rubbing my persimmons was putting wire around them. They don't seem to like the wire near as much as they'll handle tubes, but they do not like wire. So there's a beautiful dawn redwood. We got the 2 dawn redwoods planted. We got a third one. We're going to let this one not have a cage, and we'll see how it does. All right, well, we just finished planting those dawn redwoods. Next up, more hazelnuts. Now, we planted some hazelnuts last year. These were grown from seed, also purchased from Ridge Nursery. They're out of Oregon. Excellent, excellent resource for your seeds. For hazelnuts, they have a whole bunch of options. This one, I have a J spray painted onto the pot. Started from seed indoors, moved outdoors last summer, has lived all summer at home in this pot. From my understanding, it's a nice tree that produces larger nuts. It has a very long bloom period. And so if you're going to plant it, you want to plant an early blooming variety to pollinate early and a later blooming variety near it to pollinate it later. Now these are open pollinated, and they took the mother tree, the Jeffersons, and they pollinated them with early and late. So some of these should be earlier, some should be later, but they do have better genetics than just your regular regular hazelnut. This tree should produce really well over the next couple, within a couple years. But it'll be a little later to start mature and seeding than some other hazelnuts. But it has very good eastern filbert blight resistance. The other tree that I'm going to grow that I have out here is Yamhill, which is a good pollinator for this. Yamhill has a little bit smaller nut from their reports, but also has complete resistance to the eastern filbert blight. So we're going to get these planted in the ground here too. So this is the Jefferson. This is a tree pot, the 3 inch by 8 inch length. They're not a bad pot, but my biggest gripe with them, because of the ridges, which promotes root growth supposedly, it's almost impossible to get the tree to slide out. And I mean, this tree has been in here 2 years, or 2 full years, growing seasons, and it's just impossible to get it out, so you have to cut it so it doesn't last as long. If you try to pull it out, that soil will just fall apart. Now you got a root that's fully exposed, and much less survival is going to happen if you are breaking apart all of its tiny little roots. I will tube these for the winter just to keep deer from browsing on them. Then I'll probably put them in a cage next year. They'll do better if you let them bush out, but I don't have enough cage for them right now. So we'll plant a few more of these. These are Tree Pro tubes out of West Lafayette, Indiana. I really like them. Durable, less expensive than others. Do the exact same work. Love the releasable zip tie. Put this on, we will have 6 more trees in the ground. These hazelnuts are a little dead on top because I kept them in the pots too long. The pot's too long, not ideal for them. But they got a great root system and they will take off in the next couple years. Let's show you a couple that we planted a few years ago. So here's our hazels that we planted today, 6 of them, Jeffersons and Yamhills. This is an unknown from a seed I got from a gentleman who did a lot of work with University of New York, State University of New York. And he had great hazelnuts, very good resistance. This tree has so far has done nothing except for grow. But I see this year it's making catkins for next spring. That's good news because this smaller guy right here also making catkins. Has a beautiful red color to it. Now here's one I planted last year. You can see it's sort of just getting used to its surroundings, but then it will take off. Here's another one. This will be the first year that I have 3 trees producing catkins. So we should start getting into some decent hazelnut harvest. We did get seeds last year, but we did not get any this year. Beautiful. Got a nice little red color to it. And then here's some more that we planted last year. Just kind of getting used to their surroundings, looking at them down there. All of them about 2.5 feet, 2 foot tall. There's the original chestnut on the farm. That is a Dunstan, which is a seedling, not a cultivar. It's a Chinese tree with a little bit of American genetics. We'll put a tube on this last tree, and then we will have 6 trees planted up as the fall colors are coming on. Yeah, the tree we're going to plant now, I got the idea from Tom Wall from Red Fern Farm in Iowa. He has chestnut orchard and he does some blended. He doesn't just do a monoculture, he doesn't do just chestnuts. Instead, in between his chestnuts, he grows various fruiting trees that work well in kind of a symbiotic relationship. This is one of those types of trees. This is a pawpaw. So you have to look up pawpaw. The leaves will be bigger than this. Pawpaws really like a little bit shady environments, but they will handle full sun as well. And as the canopy of the chestnuts grow over, this tree will still be well suited. I picked this portion of the orchard. You'll see the tree just over my truck cab there is not as big as the others. This is a younger part of the orchard. But I picked it because it tends to stay a little wetter over here. There's a diagonal change of soil type. And so I'm going to plant here. It's a little wetter. It's a little more heavy clay. I'm not sure how good that works with pawpaws, but I grew up with pawpaws in just the central Indiana. Pawpaws grew natively, and they grew about 10, 12, 15 foot tall, and they grew a fruit that's kind of purplish color. It can be different colors. It's a greenish color, and as it ripens it turns a little purplish, and it tastes, I guess if you're going to describe it, most like a banana, and I would describe its flesh as sort of like a plum. It's not my favorite fruit, but it was a tasty fruit to try here and there. Another interesting fact is pawpaws are the sole host plant, as far as I'm aware, of the zebra swallowtail butterfly. So we have the common swallowtail here, and we see tiger swallowtails, but we don't see zebra swallowtails where I'm at, because as far as I know, we have no pawpaws. So we'll see if pawpaws can handle the cold here. They handle it in Iowa. They should be able to handle it here. So I'm going to plant 4 of these today, and I have 4 of them that I planted from seed. This spring, these were seedlings that I bought as 2-year-old seedlings. These are 2 years old when I bought them. They grew last year and this year. This is a 4-year-old tree now. It should take off a little more here as we get farther down the line, but this is what we got so far. So I'm going to plant these up, and these leaves will get bigger and full, especially if they were in the shade. They get real big. I mean, they can be, I don't know, 8-10 inches long, much bigger than this, but we'll see how they do. It's worth experimenting. Well, y'all, I appreciate you following me today as we put in some habitat improvement with some pawpaws to potentially sell, something for people to eat. Who knows, maybe we'll get some zebra swallowtails. Put in some crabapples. What else we put in? We put in a bunch of different hazelnuts, and we've improved our chances of seeing good deer, feeding the wildlife, and just generally enjoying our time outdoors. We want to see wildlife. So when we put good food for them to eat, when we set the table, maybe they'll come to eat. And occasionally, because of that, maybe we'll eat. Anyway, thanks for following me as we got these trees planted. That's been something I've been wanting to do for the past 1.5 years. Great time to do it. I got a few more to get in the ground. We'll see if that happens. Deer season opens on Saturday. It's Thursday. So thanks for following me here. Lake Erie chestnuts, a little bit different today, planting different trees, not chestnuts. But hope you have a great day. Remember, if you're not growing, you're dying.